What is the meaning of bird dreams? Birds are part of your daily life. We may often see them flying around, chirping, or hanging out at their nests feeding their young ones. Since dreams are often reflections of the signals or cues that we take in from our daily experience, your dream of seeing birds of different colors can indicate specific contexts of the larger meaning of bird dreams. It's very important to pay close attention to the color of the bird. It could be a bluebird, a blackbird, or even a yellow bird. It could be some sort of sparrow species. Take in as much detail as you can because these contextual cues can go a long way in properly framing the context and the specific meaning of the birds that you see in your dreams. Don't for a second think that just because you see a bird, that it automatically means a wide range of meanings and you are in for an accurate reading of your night vision. It doesn't work that way. You have to not only look at the type of bird, its color, but also the specific context. Is it in a cage? Is it feeding? Are you feeding the bird? So you have to keep this in mind because it's very easy to mess this up. Bird dreams are often easy to forget because birds are very common. And it's really sad that a lot of people pay no mind to these types of dreams when in reality, their subconscious is basically begging for them to pay attention to certain things that are happening in their lives because something big is about to break loose. Either it's a good thing or a bad thing, but most people are just taken by surprise, and it really is too bad because those birds in your dreams have been telling you what's about to happen or what the consequences of your common decisions or frequent decisions are about to unleash in your life. What does it mean to dream about birds? Generally speaking, when you dream about these winged creatures, there's a part of you that desires freedom or independence. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a grandiose plan or some sort of far out vision for yourself, but there are certain areas of your life where you feel restricted, where you feel that you would like some sort of change. Maybe you feel that you're not getting paid enough. Maybe in your relationship, you feel that you or your partner or both of you are not growing. Maybe in your family, you feel that your voice is not being heard or you're not being given enough respect. Whatever the case may be, there is some sort of situation in your life where you would like some sort of elbow room. You want more freedom. You want more independence because you feel somehow, some way stuck. Birds easily represent freedom because they can soar through the air. They can go from point A to point B with nothing holding them back. And it's very important to take note that this is the general overview of dreams about birds. But again, as I've mentioned in the introduction, you have to pay close attention to the specific context. What does it mean to dream of birds in a cage? When you see birds in your dream stuck in a cage and all the action takes place within the cage, your subconscious is telling you that there are certain decisions in your life that you've made that are holding you back or are somehow preventing you from growing. A lot of people dance around these types of realizations, much like they would dance around an 800-pound elephant in the middle of the room. Denial is a very powerful skill that a lot of us learn early on. But the truth is, whatever hopes, aspirations, and dreams you may have, they're never going to take flight until and unless you first admit that you've made a mistake. Believe me, I understand. Most people have a tough time admitting that they're wrong. Can you imagine living your life year after year, going through the wrong decision and taking the wrong direction because you don't want to turn back? You feel that you've already sunk in all this time, all this effort, and it really doesn't make sense for you to turn back. But you know the right direction. But the longer you go in the wrong direction, the more invested you are in going that way. Do you see how this works? This applies across the board, whether it's school, your relationships, your health, you name it. And this is a lot of the reason why people see that bird in a cage and they see themselves stuck. But that's the reality that they chose. And you have to understand that the bars of that cage are only as real as you give them permission to exist. You can change, you can radicalize or revolutionize your life situation. And all it takes is to wake up to the assumptions that you've been making all this time and change your expectations. And along the way, your assumptions will change as well. This is not a small thing. This is not a mental thing, because once you make this change and you're really sincere about it, everything else will fall like dominoes. Because the moment you start interpreting or viewing the world in a different way, they soon make their way to how you talk and what you choose to think about on a day-to-day basis. And pretty soon, you start doing different things. This is precisely when your life changes, because when you do things different, the world pays attention. It doesn't care about your intentions, motivations, hopes, and dreams. Everybody's got those. But it sits up and pays attention when you start doing things differently. So allow yourself to set aside your ego and break the bonds of the emotional investment you've made in your life so far, and look at things with a fresh set of eyes, because the freedom that you've been desiring all this time is simply just a matter of mindset. What does it mean to dream of an empty birdcage? When you look at it, the main focus of your dream is the emptiness of the birdcage. There's a sense of loneliness. A lot of this has to do with the fact that a lot of people emotionally invest in certain decisions in their lives. In fact, a lot of us define ourselves based on our frustrations and failures. The truth is, you don't have to define yourself that way. You're more valuable than that. Stop looking at the years you have lost and focus more on the life you have yet to live. Because if you keep thinking that your best years are behind you, or you wasted all this time in a bad relationship, in a bad job, or a dead-end career, you rob yourself of the sense of possibility and adventure that you need to soar, to explore, to otherwise enjoy the rest of your life. And unfortunately, the more you dwell on past mistakes, the more you yearn for, or in a perverse way, desire the old frustrations that you had. You broke free of that. You understand that that was what was holding you back. Now is not the time to go back. The future is forward, not backward. What does it mean to dream about birds flying near you? A lot of us are very envious creatures. This is understandable because we tend to measure our success based on how much other people desire that success. If we feel that people aren't flying close to us, or that we are not flying at the right altitude, or we're flying so low, we instinctively think that we're doing something wrong because people aren't desiring the path that we're on. When you dream of yourself with birds flying near you, what you are looking for or looking at is this psychological dependency for external validation. Don't get me wrong. External validation is important up to a certain point. You need a certain level of external validation to let you know that you're doing well or you're going in the right direction. It also works the other way. You need external validation to give yourself the push that you need if you screw up. But you can only take it so far. A lot of people become addicted to external validation, And before they know it, that's all their life revolves around. And this is a problem. When you see yourself in your dream with birds flying near you, pay close attention to your need for external validation. Is it based on the right things? Do you have the right attitude when it comes to external validation, or has it become some sort of obsession? Remember, it's just a tool. Use it the right way. What is the dream meaning of sparrow birds flying? Seeing sparrows flying in your dreams can symbolize a desire for more liberty or self reliance in your waking life. Sparrows are very resourceful. Sparrows are also quite versatile. And unfortunately, a lot of us would like to imagine ourselves free, independent, and self directed. As you probably already know, self conception is not necessarily reality. A lot of people who imagine themselves as independent and free of external validation, of the need for external validation, are actually quite needy and clingy emotionally. When you see dreams of sparrows flying all around you, or your main focus is a sparrow bird, it is time for some sort of self assessment. Do your ideals about your ability to set your own path or to provide for yourself or otherwise come up with your own ideas or when it comes to your life, do they line up with your practical day-to-day reality? Maybe you need a little bit more adaptability in your life. Maybe you need more resilience. Now, it's one thing to say resilience, it's another to actually develop it. As you probably already know, for you to be resilient, it means you have to be able to survive major setbacks. It's easy to fantasize about ourselves being resilient or imagining ourselves to be resilient, but it takes strength to go through potential bankruptcy, potential heartbreaks, or a serious health emergency and come out as a resilient person. So instead of desiring it, talking about it, making a big deal out of it, prepare to be resilient. Deal with your setbacks and challenges and frustrations head on. Don't turn the other way. That's not going to make you resilient. What does it mean to dream about birds flying into a window? We are our own worst enemy. I hope I'm not saying anything that is completely new or shocking. In fact, if you are completely honest with yourself, the only person that can truly sabotage your success in life is you. Now, with that out of the way, when you see birds flying into a window, your subconscious is telling you that there are certain beliefs that you hold about yourself, about your place in the world, as well as your relationship with other people, so on and so on, so on and so forth, that actually hold you back and can lead you to making instinctive or habitual bad decisions. I know this sounds crazy, but a lot of people tend to sabotage themselves right at the point when they were about to achieve a major breakthrough. There could be a lot more successful people in this world, but so many of us develop habits that end up sabotaging ourselves. Maybe we do things out of pride. Maybe we have a misplaced sense of principle, or we feel that our sense of personal honor is so important that we'd rather destroy our future than to be in somebody else's debt. I hope you get my point. There's definitely a time and place for standing by your principle, but you have to be clear as to what your principles are in the first place for this to all work out. Otherwise, you're just basically emotionally reacting, and you shouldn't be all that surprised if you find yourself sabotaging yourself time and time again. What does it mean to dream about birds in your house? This is a fairly common dream. You're inside the interior space of your house and you see these birds either flying through the interior space or they're just hanging out at a ledge or a bookshelf. What this dream indicates is that your sense of freedom is actually under threat, not from other people seeking to take it away from you, but it's under threat because you are beginning to change in terms of what you aspire to, and you quickly realize that your desire for freedom has to be offset by a matching need for greater personal accountability and responsibility. This is very scary for a lot of people because those dreams of birds and the freedom and independence that they represent, they're finally coming home to roost, literally and figuratively in your dreams. In other words, now is the time to put your money where your mouth is. You talk about striking out on your own. You talk about creating your own path. You talk about being your own person. These are all well and good, but what exactly are you doing about it? How do you know that you're actually making the right efforts? Are you really breaking away from your need for external validation and being your own person? These birds inside your interior space are basically symbolizing that you have to make it real. Because for the longest time, you're just hanging on to these ideas to make you feel that you are special. But in reality, you're just another face in the crowd. You're just another conformist. And there's really nothing all that special about you. Now you're given the opportunity to actually deliver or live out the ideals that you keep telling yourself you have. What does it mean to dream about birds chirping outside your house? Do you look at TikTok videos of people who travel all over the world without a care? Do you look at people who don't have a job but are able to travel from one corner of the world to the next because they make enough money from their YouTube channels and TikTok creations? When you hear birds chirping outside your house in your dream, your subconscious is trying to tell you very important lessons regarding the shiny object syndrome. This is a very common problem that a lot of people who work 9 to 5 or who have fixed sedentary careers suffer from. Because, as the old saying goes, the grass is always greener. A lot of people would love to be where you are. A lot of people would kill to be in your position. But you wouldn't know any of that, or you wouldn't have any idea of that because you feel that you could be doing so much better with your life. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to turn down the 6 figures or the huge amount of money you're making. That's not the issue. Instead, you want to pair that amount of income with a tremendous amount of personal freedom. And that's why you find yourself scrolling through YouTube channels of professional food bloggers that travel the whole world eating street food and having the time of their lives. But in reality, what your subconscious is trying to put you in, is trying to frame your life around, is the old concept of having your cake and eating it too. Everything has a cost. Life is a series of trade-offs. If you have matured in any way, you would know that this is a reality. So when you see yourself pining or somehow yearning, as when you dream about birds chirping outside your house, your subconscious is trying to let you know that you have to be at peace with a part of yourself that just wants to give everything up in exchange for freedom. Remember, freedom comes at a heavy cost. The people who have successfully become content creators that would enable them to make enough money off YouTube to travel the world freely, they paid a heavy price to reach that stage. Don't think for a second that any of that was easy. So do yourself a big favor. Channel this desire for independence to become better at what you're doing right where you are. What does it mean to dream of birds eating breadcrumbs? breadcrumbs have always symbolized a trail that enables people to find their way out of a situation or a, a series of temptations that can lead to very bad decisions. It really all depends on you. You can be the bird that follows that trail of crumbs, eating your way through a trap and then regretting your decisions. Or you could be that bird that found itself lost and by looking at the trail of crumbs could see the way out. It all depends on your orientation. It all depends on what you're looking for. And ultimately, it all depends on your mindset. Because you have to understand that when you look at your life and you see one series of frustrations after another, there's something wrong. Because a lot of people would die to be where you are. Just because you think you're having a tough time doesn't mean that this is the inescapable reality of your existence. Indeed, if you're watching this video and you live in the United States, please understand that millions of people would love to be in your shoes. If you're in the United States and you're watching this video and you live in the suburbs, please understand that there are a lot of people who are already in the US would love to be in your exact situation. I could go on and on. So focus on what you have and work with it so you can then work towards your dreams or aspirations. Don't for a second think that there is some sort of magic solution that would enable you to get out from under your frustrations. Life doesn't work that way. What does it mean to dream about blackbirds? Blackbirds can indicate crows and other dark birds. This color represents wisdom. There are many ways to gain wisdom. We can definitely gain wisdom from books up to a certain extent, but the most powerful and the deepest way to get wisdom is through the hard knocks of experience. It's one thing to talk about love. It's another to understand its value and importance because you've had your heart broken. It's another to talk about being successful with money. And it's another thing entirely to go through the challenges of entrepreneurialism and put in the grind and make the necessary sacrifices to actually make it big. I hope you can see the difference. Because the problem with the way we often think about wisdom is that we think it's easy. We think it's readily accessible. We think that it's ready to be absorbed. It isn't. Somebody can give you the secret to life or the secret to becoming a billionaire, and you wouldn't know what to do with it. Everything is laid out. There's even a plan. There's a step-by-step program, and still you're poor. Why? You have to go through the process. And this is the wisdom of the blackbird. It is a tired, old person trapped in the form of a blackbird. We're talking about billions of years of accumulated experience and wisdom. And it never really changes. For you to gain, you must first lose. For you to grow, you must first let go. These have been true since forever. They were true yesterday, they're true now, and they will continue to be true long into the future. So instead of dancing around these real lessons and realities, dig in, roll up your sleeves, and assume that this is what you have to do and enjoy the journey. Let the journey change you. Because otherwise, your attitude towards wisdom is that it's going to be some sort of hack or some sort of cheat code. Well, life is not a video game. You can't just pop in some terminal codes and all of a sudden you fast forward to the end of the game. The universe doesn't work that way. You have to go through the process. You have to go through the cycle of birth, growth, sickness, death, and rebirth. This is the power of experience. This is the way. What does a bluebird mean in a dream? Have you ever met somebody that seems to tell you all your hopes and dreams and seems to make you feel that everything is possible? Have you ever fallen under the charm of somebody who imagines a world that you would love to live in? Because everything seems so engaging, everything seems so new. Well, you have to be very careful regarding the bluebird in your dreams, because on one level, they symbolize happiness, joy, and hope. They represent the arrival or the desire for good news and positive changes in your life. But here's the problem. You can visualize, you can even meditate on what it would be like to get out from under your toxic problems or to live a completely different life. Most people are able to do this at some level or other. But here's the temptation. Meditation and visualization are tools to give us enough mental and spiritual energy to actually do something about our day-to-day lives. And this is where the bluebird falls apart, because it can pump you up with hopes, wishes, dreams, and aspirations that give you some sort of emotional sugar rush. But a lot of people just get addicted to the rush. They think that they're actually solving their problems or dealing with their painful day-to-day realities by simply imagining themselves to be somewhere different, to be completely free of whatever it is that's frustrating them. But let me tell you, if you are unemployed and you don't have any money coming in, it doesn't matter how many times you imagine yourself being in Elon Musk's corner office raking in billions of dollars. None of that mental and emotional exercises and energy are going to draw the dollars in. You have to roll up your sleeves and work. I'm not saying that the bluebird dream, is absolutely worthless. I'm not saying that at all. But you have to interpret it, or you have to live with it in the proper framing. It is inspiring you. Use it accordingly. You are inspired to do something. You're not just inspired for the sake of being inspired. And unfortunately, a lot of us buy book after book, attend seminar after seminar, or hang out at all sorts of online forums and discussion groups to be inspired, but there's nothing after inspiration. Inspiration is supposed to be just the starting point. It's supposed to be the push that enables you to sacrifice whatever it takes and to put in the hard work to make your dreams a reality. You have to be able to do the work. Don't just settle for the sugar high. What does it mean to dream of fighting birds? This is a dream image of confusion. A lot of people fail to achieve success in their relationships as well as their personal well-being or their diet plans or weight loss plans, not because they're dumb, not because they're lazy, not because they have absolutely no resources. Instead, they fail because they're trying to juggle so many conflicting ideas on how to achieve a certain outcome. Let me tell you, if you have a TikTok account and you watch and scroll down for about 10 to 15 minutes a day, you will probably have at least a dozen different ideas on how to solve a problem or how to look at life. This is not an empty detail. This is a serious problem. Because if you want to solve things, if you want to move forward, if you want to achieve a certain reality, you have to pick the strongest option and commit. When you see yourself fighting birds in your dreams, you're basically hoping that somehow, some way, one of these birds that represent freedom will be the answer, but you don't know which one. So you're left in a state of confusion and all your power dissipates. It doesn't really matter how motivated you are. It doesn't really matter how emotionally pumped up you may be in changing your life. If you have so many different birds fighting for space in your head, you're going to remain confused. And what do confused people do? They go around in circles, like a snake trying to eat its tail. Not a whole lot is happening. I'm sorry to say. So you have to pick one. You have to pick a direction, take it as far as you can, and if things don't work out, call it for what it is, admit failure, and take a different direction. But the key here is to invest the proper amount of time, effort, and energy and give it all you have. But if you're constantly trying to set goals and pursue those goals and you're confused or you're juggling so many different things, you're always going to run out of energy. You're always going to fall flat. What does it mean to dream of a bird's nest? When you look at the nest of a bird that's appeared in your dream and the main focus is the nest or the bedding, this is an indication of the need for belonging, security, or a sense of achievement. There's nothing wrong with this dream, but you have to look at it from the proper perspective. For you to soar, for you to have some sort of fighting chance at the kind of success that you are looking to achieve in this world, you have to have a solid base. This is where your personal nest comes in. By nest, I'm not, of course, talking about a physical nest. I'm not even talking about the four corners of your home. Instead, I'm talking about something more fundamental. I'm talking about your assumptions and expectations. This is your real home. This is where you spiritually and mentally go back to every single day. Make sure it's the right nest. Does it comfort you? Does it encourage you? Does it give you enough wisdom? Is it based in reality? Does it steal you based on real life experience? Or does it delude you with all sorts of bluebird type, sugar rush, pie in the sky ideas? It's your choice. But you have to be clear as to the role that nest plays, because all of us have nests. They're not physical nests, obviously, but we all have nests. They are the most important part of our being, because that's where we always come back to, and they shape our reality. In fact, on a practical day-to-day basis, they dictate our reality. So be aware of what your nest is, and if you're not happy or you're unsure as to whether that your nest will lead you to where you want to go, don't be afraid to burn that nest down and replace it with something more appropriate. What does it mean to dream of finding an abandoned bird's nest? This can be a very good thing, or it can be disastrous. When we're lazy, it's very easy to just latch on to somebody else's mindset and attitude. After all, they seem to embody the kind of reality we want to live. So, since we're lazy, we don't want to figure things out on our own, we'd rather just absorb what they have. And let's face it, this is how most children deal with their parents. A lot of the things that they think about or that they believe in are simply just mental hand-me-downs from their parents. This is how human beings are shaped throughout history. Well, you can't continue to do things that way if you want to be your own person, or if you want to fine-tune things in such a way that you start to live a very successful life. You have to make mindset choices that make the most sense as far as how you're living your life and as far as your personal priorities are. These take work. You can't just rely on an abandoned nest that has been laid out for you by your parents. You have to take that abandoned nest and be ready, willing, and able to change everything. That's the key. It's not necessarily bad to work with something that's been handed down. That's what traditions are for. But as the old saying goes, it's one thing to respect the fire. It's another thing entirely to worship the ashes. I hope you know the difference. What does it mean to dream of catching a bird? This is one of the most powerful dreams you could ever have. Because when you catch a bird, this is a symbolization of you trying to be more self-aware. It's easy to just assume that birds represent the vast possibilities and freedom and desire. That's all well and good. So your not normal tendency is to just let them be. But if you actually want to make certain changes in your life, you have to first start with simple awareness. Just by simply asking, who am I? Why do I believe the things I believe? Why do I make certain decisions? And why do certain feelings of mine lead to certain realities? By starting with these and similar questions, you catch the bird symbolically. You're still after freedom. You're still after possibility. But now you are grounding everything into from a better understanding of who you are to begin with. This is power. That's why when you see yourself catching a bird in your dream, I would suggest that you wake up immediately because your subconscious is telling you that you are beginning to understand the importance of awareness, or the process of deeper self awareness has already begun. What does it mean to dream of feeding birds? Freedom comes at a price. I'm sure you already know that. Otherwise, if you are just a dreamer or some ineffectual person that thinks that you can just dream your life or latch on to somebody else's dream, then you would think that there are really no costs in life. Everything has a cost. Everything is a trade-off. So when you see yourself dreaming of feeding a bird, you have to understand that this means sacrifice. It's one thing to get pumped up about becoming a professional vlogger and just traveling the world and doing your own thing, but that comes at a price. What are you willing to give up to achieve that lifestyle? What are you willing to do to learn the skill sets that you need to become a good vlogger? I can apply this analysis to the practice of law, practice of medicine, you name it. Anything worth doing in life requires sacrifice. This is why it's really important to understand that the proper context of feeding a bird in your dream indicates decision, commitment, and sacrifice. We live in a world of convenience. And that's why you rarely hear the words discipline and sacrifice, but they're precisely what you need to achieve the kind of life you desire. Everything comes at a price. You have to hold yourself accountable. So understand that when you see yourself feeding a bird in your dream, this is your subconscious telling you it's one thing to dream about freedom, possibilities, and all that good stuff, but you have to be ready to sacrifice. You have to be ready to pay a price. What does it mean to dream of killing a bird? This is probably one of the most tragic dreams you could ever have because, hey, let's face it, there's always a part of us that wants to be free. There's always a part of us that aspires to the heavens in terms of universal consciousness, universal ambition, and manifestation and whatnot. But when you see yourself killing a bird, you're killing that part of you. You're basically saying to yourself, my best years are behind me. I really have no right to think that my life will get any better. So I'm just going to resign myself to what I think reality is. What you're doing when you see yourself killing a bird in your dream is you're refusing to grow up because your sense of freedom, your sense of possibility are what connects you to the universe. It's what makes you human. And when you are ready to give all of that up just so you can settle for the crumbs of existence, it really is a tragedy. You may become a well-paid slave, but you're still a slave nonetheless. So think twice. You're paying a very high price for whatever security you think you're getting, but life being the way it is, whatever security you think you're getting out of the bargain may not last all that long. What does it mean to dream of seeing dead birds? Dead bird dreams, a lot of the times, represent your perception of other people's failed possibilities. For most of us, is really just an honest internal dialogue with what we think about the lives our parents have led. There's a lot of conflicted feelings. There's a lot of mixed signals. If anything, this kind of dream is simply just a call or an invitation for us for deeper self reflection. Because whatever it is that you are upset about when it comes to your parents, a lot of the times those are your personal issues. Just like a person who has a problem with lying is often the first one to call other people out for lying, you often have issues with your parents because they resonate with your own personal issues, habits, and mindset. So I'm not saying that you're a hypocrite. I'm not saying that you should clean up your own house first, but be more aware of what really is going on before you take the plunge and start pointing fingers. What does it mean to dream of bird poop? Believe it or not, bird poop is actually a good sign. It's not a surprise that in German folklore and mythology, shit, manure, feces, all of these are often associated with good fortune. When you see bird poop in your dream, maybe falling from the sky or you're walking and a pigeon poops on your shoulder, it's a good sign. It indicates that your dreams of breaking free, your dreams of coming up with an amazing new artificial intelligence startup or some sort of new way to meet people are beginning to bear fruit. Not because they're producing the outcomes that you've been desiring all this time, but because you yourself are changing. Maybe you're taking more efforts. Maybe you are becoming more organized. Maybe you have allowed yourself to be more open to other people. Whatever the case may be, you are changing, and that is the sign of victory. That is what you should be looking for.